To invite now on stage Mr. Radu Burnete, the Executive Director of the Concordia Employers Confederation, who will moderate this panel alongside with our distinguished speakers, Ligia Deca, Romanian Minister of Education, Dragoș Păslaru, Romanian MEP, Svetlana Stoilova, Lead Advisor at Digital Economy Working Group, Business Europe. Ion Moldoveanu, Board Member, ANIS and VP Lead Technology Manager at Deutsche Bank Global Technology. Alina Sava, Senior Education Specialist at the World Bank. Cristian Sporiș, President of AmCham. Cristina Rațiu, Group CEO at BitNet Training. We'll bring another chair. There's another one, I think, that area.
I know we have a chair for Mr. Costoiu.
And I know that it is my understanding that Mihnea Costoiu, Director of National University of Science and Technology at Politehnica Bucharest, will join our discussion soon enough. But until then, we will leave you with Radu Burnete. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Hello, dear panelists. I will start with a joke, then with a quiz, then I will do some juggling, then maybe we do a discussion, and then you can have dinner. I know your energy is a little low in the afternoon, so I'll try to spice things up a little bit. The joke I was thinking of coming into the room, there's less of you now than there were this morning, and this reminded me of this joke. During the Brezhnev era, there was this long queue in Moscow for a store where they sold meat, and the queue was very, very long. And at some point, a fancy car stops by, and Brezhnev steps out of the car. And he goes towards the queue, and he says, "Okay, guys, only those of you which are party members, please stay, and only if you have your party card with you." The others leave. Brezhnev invites the party members inside the meat store, and he says, "Look, now that we're just between us, there's no meat for today." So now because we're just between us now, let's talk about education and work. And just to get a little bit the pulse of the room before we go into our discussion, I prepared a short Slido, and I will kindly ask you to vote on a couple of things, and then we get things started. And I think I can control it from my phone. Let's see how my IT skills are doing tonight. If you want to turn around a little bit, you can also do the Slido. So the way it works, you either scan that with your phone, or go to slido.com and enter the number you see there, 1713-81812. And the first question is sort of a test question to make sure things are working, right? I will also read it. So, if it would be possible today to insert a chip in your brain in order to have unmediated access to AI tools, you would encourage friends to see how it works first, immediately set up an appointment, or don't touch my brain. You seem to be appreciating your friends, huh? My vote is secret. All right. Let's see, 50 of you have voted. Let me do a quick count. Come on, 10 more of you can vote. And then I can move to the serious questions. Okay, I'm really happy for your friends. Now that we got this going, I have three serious questions for you. And the first one, if you were to look at artificial intelligence from, let's say, a civilizational point of view, what would you say it's most similar to? The discovery of fire, the invention of agriculture, the steam engine, electricity, or maybe you believe it's not that transformational as these things? All right. Come on, let's get to 60. So most of you think it's more like electricity, which is also something we've all been reading about, that it's this technology that affects everything else. I did pick other technologies that affected everything else, but okay, let's go for electricity. There's no right answer or bad answer. I was just curious how you see it. And how many people don't think it's very transformational? Oh, 4%. Okay, 4% think it's not transformational. The next one. Will we finally be able to work only 1-2 days a week once AI becomes embedded in economies? Yes, no. And I also have yes and no. There will be massive unemployment. The robots are going to take your jobs and my job and everybody's job. Okay, not a lot of you expecting massive unemployment. That's good. I hope you're right. Okay, 70 voted. So basically, we're going to work just as hard, but with AI. This is what you seem to be telling me. Okay, you're very encouraging, guys. Last one, and then we get to the talks. Education systems can change fast enough to cope with this technological change. I'm not asking if they should, but if you think they can. Actually, this is the only question I wanted to see answered. The other ones were just for fun. And I think this is a good question to start our discussion with, because we're going to talk about education and the future of work. And judging by the answer I see on the screen, it seems that most of you think that this technological change is so fast that our education system cannot cope. So from this, let's go into our discussion. And when Mr. Costoiu finally gets here, we'll have 4 ladies in the panel and 4 gentlemen. So I suggest we start with a lady and we go 1 lady, 1 gentleman, 1 lady, 1 gentleman. And we'll be transparent with you. I did not tell the panelists in advance my questions, because I wanted to have a lively discussion with them. And I encourage them first to answer other questions than the ones I'm asking, if they feel like it. I also encourage them to interrupt, ask questions between themselves, and try to have a discussion going. And I will start with you, Mrs. Deca, because we're talking about education systems. People think we cannot change them fast enough to handle this technological change. So my question would be, at the Ministry of Education in Romania, are you already thinking about how AI changes education, or how we should put together a strategy to change our educational system to handle this technology?
First of all, good afternoon, everyone. It's really nice to be among IT people, digital people, educational entrepreneurs. I think we've come a long way, and the reply to the question of are you thinking of using AI in education more, or how are you using it, is a bit linked with the first question that I've seen replied to on Slido. You know, about the chip with AI in your brain, the majority, 40-something%, said, you know, first I see what my friends do with it. And the second reply, almost 40%, was don't touch my brain. It's a little bit the same with educational reform, in the sense that everyone wants the deep reform. Everyone thinks that education is the answer to progress in general, but nobody wants to start with their own kid. So in this respect, I'll give you just an example, a recent example. The Ministry of Education, starting with this year, will evaluate all kids in national evaluations by using digital evaluations. We have a new platform. We've been testing it for a couple of years. We've been piloting it on the simulations of national examinations. And the uproar in society and the number of complaints that we've received that, you know, the differences are too big, or that it's not adequate, or that it's too risky, have been sky high. And coincidentally, a lot of these doubts came from the young generation. So there is a resistance to change, and we all know this. I mean, working in corporations, we know that there is a resistance to change, and change requires time, it requires, you know, teamwork, it requires trust, it requires piloting, and it requires patience. And I think this is the problem that we've seen in the last question, you know, do we think education adapts fast enough? It cannot adapt fast enough. It's the biggest public sector. It's the one sector that employs the most people in this country, and I think in most countries. I think education will integrate AI, and you know, I think we're on the right path. By digitalizing evaluations, we will know by item of evaluation. We will know based on what exactly kids are not managing to reply to which question, what we will need to do. So we will be able to use AI to generate individual learning paths, individual remedial paths. We will be able to see what their talents are very fast. We will be able to tailor their educational path, which is something we've wanted since we were in school, if we're honest. So now, with small steps, which cost a lot also from the, you know, administrative capacity and even political points of view, we will be able to move to the next step. But I don't think we're at EI yet. We're still at digitalizing education, digitalizing the management systems in school, digitalizing evaluations, digitalizing educational resources. We're still at that step, and it's going to take a while because it's the biggest public system that we have. And I know we're being impatient, but if we don't get this right, if we don't manage to do this first step of digitalizing right, AI will be a privilege for a very few. Thank you.
Which is something we definitely don't want. There's a lot of fear that AI will privilege just the top 1% and the best companies. Maybe just a short follow-up question, and then I'll move to someone else. I know for sure that you talk with other ministers from the EU, and this is probably also a topic. Do you feel they share the same worries that you have, or some countries are a little bit more advanced into this field than Romania?
I think it depends a lot also on culture and history of the system, and also the level of digital skills of teachers. Some countries are worried when it comes to exposure to screens and to, you know, digital applications. We have some countries which actually forbade the use of you know, screens for certain ages for kids, because they think psychologically and pedagogically it's not recommended. Others try to use AI, especially for special target groups. For example, for kids which need remedial interventions, it's very useful for equity measures because it helps you understand very fast what you lack and tailors, you know, the needed recovery measures for each kid. Others use it for different purposes. For example, for professional orientation. Countries in Asia have been doing so for a while. We have countries which have national platforms which score you according to some dimensions and immediately tell you what professions would be best for you, and they would immediately give you the available educational programs that would prepare you for those jobs. So we have countries which have national platforms doing that. So there are a number of uses for this. There are countries with different experiences, but as said, I think in Europe the main discussion is, and probably Dragos can tell you more about this, is about human-centered AI, about how AI is a tool and how it will never be able to replace education as a social immersion process.
Okay, and I will get to the EU part a little bit later in the program after two more jokes and so on. Thank you, Minister. I would now jump to the private sector because we started with the public sector and jump to a gentleman, to Mr. Cristian Sporiș, who is the president of AmCham and also a banker, which probably puts him on those list of friends to get chips implanted. And I have two questions for you, Cristi. One as a banker and one as the president of AmCham, and I'll start with the banker. I'm sure you talk to a lot of companies and a lot of clients, and you have in-depth conversations in order to finance them. And I think my curiosity is, how does this, let's call it AI revolution, feel at this level of your discussions with the companies? Are they feeling it? Do you see more the fear of unemployment, or do you see more the productivity gains there and already looking into financing these things?
Good afternoon also from my side. Thank you very much. So we'll continue with the joke, although the previous intervention was not a joke, was a really very, very in-depth analysis on the education system. But I will continue with the joke because me being a banker in a European bank and also in one which is coming, the shareholder is coming from Austria, and we were having jokes about Schengen for the past year and a half, so somehow I can continue with this. I think looking on the industries, in Europe, I would say Europe is a little bit behind the curve, as a banker would say, in terms of AI. Of course, if we speak about AI, the term was introduced somewhere in 1955, first time used. So now what we are speaking about is rather generative AI, because AI is here in the economic sphere since many years already. What we are speaking about is a generative AI. Europe, it's a little bit behind the curve. I heard the minister speaking about Far East, South Asia. Of course, the policymakers there are looking a little bit ahead in terms of openness about what AI can do and what AI cannot do. US, it's also, because now I'm having the head from AmCham. Do you know any European Union company which has cloud as we speak? Most of them are US, if I'm not mistaken. AI, at the end, what it will do, will use the data which we are making them available, we as a person or companies or whatever, in cloud, and those, based on the patterns, will create generative use cases. So Europe is a little bit behind. So speaking with the customers from different industries, I would say the biggest discussion nowadays, it's about the rather digitalization, rather collecting data in a structured manner, although across the Atlantic, the discussion about data lakes, where you'll gather no matter what kind of data, and then the AI will structure them based on the use cases. So I would say Europe, it's a little bit behind. It's focused more on policy making, in making all sorts of regulation, which is true. It's normal to be like that. But also here, there are two perspectives. And I will give you one saying of Winston Churchill, which said, fear is a reaction, courage is a decision. So whenever you are looking to the framework, the institutional framework and the legislation in place, you rather take the risk of having something and then regulating it, or you will start by regulating it, and there is a risk of not having anything in terms of generative AI in Europe. On the other hand, as I mentioned, I think all of us, and I can see in the bank, I can see also the customers we are doing business with, all of us, as we are moving the application, we are moving the data into the cloud, somehow we are making available those data for use cases which would happen either in US or in Southeast Asia, be it, I don't know, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, and so on and so forth.
And you think Romania would be a good place for having these use cases for AI? You think we're competitive on this front, or could be competitive?
From this perspective, I think data would be available. Where we can, and link to the education, the future of work, I mean, where we can make a difference is, and AI, generative AI will never be able to replace emotional intelligence. And here it will be important for us, and probably also in the education, to create to the children this need to search for different things, to make things easier. You know, there are this saying that let's not cut the corners. But sometimes cutting the corners, yeah, it's bringing the progress. Because people will look how they will make things easier for the rest of the, and those are the type of use cases that we will need. And apparently, if you are looking to the number of companies which are present now in US, Romanian companies, and some of them are here as sponsor, Bitdefender, YPS, and so on, and there are many more. Apparently, there is a lake of innovation present in Romania. What we can do is to incentivize somehow to help those, I don't know, governmental programs, private programs to develop those sort of labs where people will use their intelligence and innovation in order to create these use cases which can be used worldwide with the help of generative AI.
Okay, so I'll take two ideas from what you said. That Romania could be let's say a good ground for use cases, and Europe is a little bit behind the curve. And when we move to the EU level in a bit of time, I will definitely ask that question. Thank you, Cristi. Now I would still stick to Romania for a little while, and I would move to you, Mrs. Rațiu. Your company provides a lot of trainings, especially for software engineers, programmers, and the like. And I think my curiosity would be, how often do you already hear your clients telling you, I need to train my people in AI, or they need to know more AI stuff? Is it already happening? Are you thinking about it? How do you see this?
Mm-hmm. It's already happening. And I've seen a change in conversation. Maybe some months ago, we were talking about the ethics of AI. Everybody was concerned about the ethics of AI. And today, everybody's more concerned about using it and how to use it for a better work-life balance, because it's possible to make sure that the volume of work is less. And I didn't necessarily start as an AI evangelist personally, okay, because this is the truth. AI appeared and you first, especially...
You wanted the chip in your friends, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely going for the chip in my friends. But also us as a nation, we tend to look more at the downsides of something than at the positives of it, right? And you would at the first the impulse is to say, well, maybe slow down a little, maybe not now, maybe later. And then time passes, and we were not using it in our company either. Again, fact. And then I found myself in the awkward situation of explaining to my parents what AI does. And I realized that I'm putting so much passion into telling them how good this is. I mean, this is really helping you to reduce the volume of work. It gives you time to think at so many things and strategize and, you know, be more creative. And then I said, well, I'm just stupid because I'm saying about all these benefits but not using it. So we went back and started to create focus groups and see what our fear is in approaching AI or using it. And it's the same in companies. There's companies that want to learn how to use it for a better work life, because I don't know about you, but everybody has a million things to do today. And it feels like there isn't enough time in a day. We need more hours in a day. AI, I think, is something that can really, really change that. And it doesn't have to be complicated. We just need to learn a little bit about the ways we can use it for our businesses. And then there's companies that are a little bit more advanced, specifically tech companies, that want to learn more advanced things about this. And it's the same with, we were talking before about the educational system, and I don't think it can change that fast, but people can, and systems are built by people. And in time, when we sit together, more than that, we can find a solution to not be afraid. I don't think people will lose their jobs because of AI. I think companies will grow faster and easier because people will be trained to use AI. And instead of, you know, having to let people go, we might find new jobs for them with the help of AI. And when we talk about responsible AI, because this is a huge topic, but really it's also about being responsible with the people in our organization. And that starts with teaching them what this entire revolution is about. So to summarize the question, we have many, many requests for AI training. We provide many subjects, starting from how you can use it, what is this entire AI craziness that people are talking about, to how you literally use it for more advanced, innovative solutions in the company.
Well, it's interesting what you're saying. You seem to be suggesting that before you get to the teaching part, to the practical part, this is how you use AI, you kind of need to put people in a framework, explain what AI is and what AI does, because
Yes.
it's a different way of working. This is, my intuition is correct. It doesn't work otherwise.
From my point of view, I think digital skills need to be about AI. Today, I don't think you can speak about digital skills without discussing AI and the use of AI and the many, you know, there's thousands of AI apps that can help you edit, that can help you write better emails, that can scan through 10,000 CVs in 2 hours and select 5 the best that you need. So I think they go hand in hand. You can't teach advanced skills on AI if everybody else in the organization doesn't know what AI is, how you can use it. It's the same with cybersecurity, the basic skills. Everything goes hand in hand. Digital skills, AI, and
it's kind of an ecosystem. Thank you. And now jumping to the public side of education, I want to welcome Mr. Costoiu. And just to brief him a little bit, we did a survey in the very beginning, and 92% of the people in the room said the education system cannot cope fast enough and cannot change fast enough to handle these new technologies, AI and so on. So starting from this, I ask you this question because you are director of Romania's most important polytechnic. So in a way, I think you feel this burden of having to change really fast to adapt the curricula, the professors, to be able to teach your students all these AI tools and to prepare them for this world. And I think my question is, how is it going?
Thank you so much for this invitation. It's a great honor and pleasure for me to have this chance to speak in front of the most important audience in this industry. It's a long history between the debate between the industry and education. It's nothing new. First industrial revolution, after the first industrial revolution, we have this debate, and now in the last 20 years, not only in Romania, across the world, also in the United States, in Asia, it's the same debate. You have 3 weeks ago a large meeting in the United States about exactly this subject with the biggest university in the United States. It's not so easy. The biggest problem, like in all other companies in Romania now, it's the human resources. This is the truth. It's a long debate between university and the company. From our best students, we negotiate. We have a lot of negotiation with the company, and we work with some company and help us to work together to offer very good package for the very good students, for continue to stay in university, of course, work in the different company, but continue to stay and help us to create other human resources, and so on. It's a big challenge for us. And of course, in this industry, it's the biggest challenge compared with others. Of course, with many other companies in different industries, have same debate, but with this industry, software industry in special, it's a long debate and very difficult discussion. The second, it's of course the debate about the curriculum. Can we talk with some people from industry and with our professors, say yes, it's very important to adapt day by day our curriculum, but it's very important continue to prepare our students in the very good theoretical level, of course, with math, with physics, with chemistry, and so on. Depend by the position in society and depend by the perspective about the future. The technology is changed in some years. It's necessary to prepare the human resources not for this technology, not for what's happened in this moment. It's very important to prepare the human resources for the future, and for this it's necessary to have most important ability, the capability to adapt day by day in this incredible market, in the incredible industry, in the incredible life, incredible society. And it's very important for us, and we speak in each high school in Romania in the last 50 years, 10 years, 5 years, last year. We discuss about our future. What is our expectation in Romania and in Europe and in the world? What is the implication of AI, because our colleagues speak about AI? What's happened tomorrow if we create a person, we have a legal responsibility in the hand of AI? And it's very important to prepare the future and our children for 5 years, 6 years, and more for the next society. It's not so easy. But I'm honest, I'm optimist, because in our university it's coming in the last, one example, last year we, in our university, our new university, we merged with University of Pitești, entry approx 9,000 students. Ligia, know all the students with back last year, it's 93,000. 10% of all of students in this country is coming in our university. And I'm not very modest, but the best students. And it's not so easy to attract, but it's very difficult to offer a very good education, quality education, and to for the university, for the parents, for help the students to stay in university for a year, because after second year, practically it's in a company. More than 50% of our students it's in company after the second year. Sorry, I speak all the day. Sorry. This is the other challenge, the last challenge in this I don't know, 3 most important challenge for us. It's not so easy, but I'm very optimistic because a lot of students is coming, a lot of professors work in the company and in university, and we realize this partnership with the company. And thank you so much for many companies in this room for this very good relation and very good tradition now for help us for prepare the human resources for the human resources. Sorry, my long speech.
No, thank you. I took a couple of ideas from you, especially the one where you said that you're also struggling with the labor force. It's something we not necessarily associate with the university, but it's true. And maybe later we can come back to this idea that it's not only important to know how to build AI, but also how to use it. And this is, I think, this is a key question. But now I would like to move. We talked about Romania, and we looked at Romania. But Romania is not an island in the ocean. It's part of the European Union. And in a way, what happens to AI in Europe is important, is equally important for us. And I would like to jump now to my colleague from Business Europe. I can say that. And for those of you that don't know, Business Europe is basically the organization that brings together national confederations like Concordia. So ANIS is a member of Concordia, and Concordia is a member at the EU level in Business Europe. So that's why I would ask Svetlana, from that position in the brain of Europe, as I was joking before the panel, I think Brussels is the brain of Europe, not necessarily the heart. There are many hearts in Europe. Last year we had the year of skills, right? And we talk a lot about the lack of skills or the problem with skills in Europe, the problem with the labor force in Europe. How does Business Europe see this lack of skills and this labor deficit, and what would be some of the solutions in the context of this AI revolution, let's call it?
Thank you very much. Indeed, we are the umbrella association of all the employers, and we represent 20 million enterprises, not just of the EU 27, but also beyond the Eastern Partnership, the Western Balkans, the economic area. So because our market is open, of course, the freedom to move across the market means also like the freedom to study and also the freedom to work in different countries. And the skills is something that the entire EU I mean, we look through the skill shortages for the entire EU. We did a survey last year, and we have about, among our members, and we have about 46% of the respondents, out of which 1/3 were enterprises with less than 50 people, and 46% said basically that digital and STEM skills are the biggest shortage within the internal market. But I want to say, like, to respond to you, like, how does Business Europe look about that? we do look at it from a perspective of the potential for the next legislative cycle. In our manifesto, Reboot Europe, the T stands for technology and talent. Since I said the anagram, I will say you what the technology and talent, if we get it right, it will bring a more resilient EU with basically facing all the crises, with energy prices, with opportunities for a company, with open trade, open rule-based trade, and for better regulation. So this is how tech and talent can make the EU better. In terms of what, let's say the cyber panel earlier also very much touched upon different skills and education that's necessary. And one of the panelists said that being literate in cybersecurity or in digitally literate is a matter of personal responsibility, not just of a matter of public or private initiative. So that is something that very much echo, because when we discuss about digital skills, sometimes they stay as a bit ephemeral, like what do we mean exactly? And for instance, to put it in a very practical term, data protection is part of the digital skills. You know, when we speak about, we have the GDPR, I'm sure many of you had headaches for the past 6 years implementing that. So data protection is not just something that the data protection officer does in a company. It's the accountant, because they handle a lot of data, personal data. It's the HR. It's the the marketing department. So it's not just something that is, oh yeah, data protection is just for this person. It's a horizontal skill that people need to have. And this is important when we speak also about getting our education system right. Getting those horizontal skills that have to be implemented in order to have this more resilient workforce towards the different tools that emerge. Not just the technology of today, as you said, AI, or tomorrow we'll be speaking about quantum, I'm sure. We'll probably be speaking about something that we maybe don't anticipate at the moment. So it's important to have those skills, and indeed, it's necessary to get the education system right. But also, we need to look in terms of short-term and long-term perspectives. And education system is very much of a long-term investment. And today we also have unemployment, and maybe getting and attracting the talent from people who are not employed at the moment is a short-term alleviation of the problem. But I will stop here, and later I can interject also with some of the issues that we found in our survey.
Maybe just a quick question, because I want to raise the bar for Mr. Păslaru, who will be next. Do you share the same feeling that was shared by Mr. Sporish earlier, that Europe is a little bit behind the curve now when it comes to these technologies? Is this something we're afraid of, and can we catch up?
I think we can catch up if the regulations are simpler.
I knew you would say that.
I heard here about a couple of the panelists earlier today, but also I believe it was the minister who said, we are very cautious sometimes when we speak about those things. And it's like, if you think Romania is cautious, come to Brussels. Guys, let's put things a little bit in perspective. And when we speak about catching up, Romania and other countries from the region, for the past 35 years, the leaps that you have done are what countries with 100 years of democracy have done in market economy. So I think we're a very good added value for representatives of that region in Europe, be it in the Commission, in the Parliament, is to bring forward that sense of we can do it. The sense of we are resilient to crisis because we've had them quite a lot. And I speak with a we because I'm Bulgarian, so you could also understand that I'm a little bit personally fond of the region. I also think that it's necessary to be a defender of the private initiative and of the market economy, because that is what also brings better democracies and better choice to people.
Thank you. And now that you mentioned regulation, I don't want to ask you just about regulation, but I think we all heard. I think it was the CEO of the big Norwegian oil fund that gave an interview about a month ago, and he said, looking at the way he invests or decides to invest, he sees that in the US there's a lot of AI and no regulation, and in Europe there's a lot of regulation and no AI. So maybe this is something I would ask you to touch upon, because you both have experience in the private sector and as a legislator now. But maybe also I would be curious how you look at systems-wide at this problem of Europe being a little bit behind, having this shortage of labor and skills, and this need to catch up, because I think we all share this feeling that we're kind of living in a century of giants, and if we don't catch up, we have a problem. So what's your take on this?
First of all, thank you very much for having me. When you were putting initially that quiz, I remember a very nice series on Netflix. Please help me. How many of you have actually watched Black Mirror? Okay, I mean, that's a really spooky thing. I mean, some of those episodes were really spooky, with the grain thing that you put in the brain and so on. So thank you for recalling that. Now, that of course led the discussion towards having technology at the center, and of course we are here at the ANIS International Summit, and it's important. But let me just a little zoom out, because I had this honor and privilege to serve as the chair of the Employment and Social Affairs Committee, and I would like to argue first that there is not just the technological challenge, but we have multiple challenges, including the demographic challenge, the energy crisis, and of course that leads to the climate change crisis that we are facing, not to mention war that is at the border. But one of the most important things that we need to start from is that when we talk about the labor market and education, generally speaking, we have two parts. First is quantitative, and second is qualitative. We've been discussing about AI, and that's more from a qualitative perspective. Let me just briefly explain a little bit how we see things at EU level from a quantitative perspective. I don't know if you are aware, but the EU is losing each year 1 million workers from the labor market. 1 million. And Romania is following the trend. I mean, we are shrinking. I mean, we do have a labor shortage. That's why we need to see what are the solutions. So basically, the first thing that I can argue here is that we are thinking at the EU that this needs to have some sort of paradigmatic change or transformative systems behind it, because we will need to produce much more with less people. And that's actually quite important. I mean, most of you here are aware of that, and you've done that in your companies, I mean, by the way. But what I'm talking about here is a societal level, and that's a very important, bigger picture. Now, if this is happening, then that needs to be followed by an economic industrial reform, because, I mean, it's not just about, the human capital component, it's about what do you do to create more value added, more productivity. So it's not just continuing what we do, add some AI, and then get the same results. Basically, we need to shift a lot of what we do in our society. And there are sectors that are more prone to be, where we have people that can be replaced by AI, and there are sectors where we have a lot of things to do, and we don't have that. And I can give you a good example, like the care sector. That is right now so much on, in a growing scenario, and I will think that Romania has a huge opportunity on that, but I mean, that's a different conference on care sector and digital and technology related to that. But I mean, if we are to look at what are the two solutions that we may have in order to accommodate this challenge, first, it's very much linked to what Ligia mentioned. It's about the digital divide and about the participation rate on the labor markets. And Romania here lags 10% less than the EU average, and there is a problem. I mean, we are, just in the EU, only Italy and Greece have worse performance on that. And it's very important to understand that there is a direct correlation in between the participation rate and the capacity of companies, including technology companies, to go further and be an engine of growth. Now, where I want to get with the activation thing is that this is about social investment, and this is one of the terms that I put forward as legislator together with my colleagues, and we've been advocating that right now the silo separation in between social and economics and technology, if you want to, I mean, there is no more silo thinking that should be there, because right now, if we are not going to address social policy in activating people on the labor market, we will not solve our problems in the business sector as well. So there is a common ground there to just be sure that we will activate as many people as possible. And on a short run, this might be through training and short-term things that we may tweak a little bit and invest a little bit more. But on a longer run, and thank you for addressing these differences between short-term and long-term, that means that we need to think completely different from the next generations. And that's actually a very important trick. There is a generational difference. We are dealing right now with the new generations that are digitally native. And they have a different way of understanding technology and using technology than we have. And if we are going to invest massively in children and youth seriously, I mean, and that means indeed a longer term perspective and figuring out how to provide accessibility, affordability, and availability of education tools. And that means not just formal education, by the way. It's also non-formal, community-based, with youth centers, with, the community embracing basically the education and having a societal response. Then we are on a good path. I mean, what have we done is not just theory. That's why we have this thing called the European Child Guarantee. And I've been one of the advocates for that at EU level, and I do believe, and it's kind of strange enough, but I do believe that there is a direct correlation in how we invest in children and how we are going to solve the future labor market problems. And that means that from a societal perspective, we might talk a lot about AI and how AI can affect us now, but if we really would like to cope with it, then we need to invest in children and in youth with these things that I'm talking about. And in Romania, you have 41.5% of children that are living in vulnerability, that are living in the risk of social exclusion. And indeed, I mean, if we are thinking that just with some islands of technology and entrepreneurship, we can ensure a future for Romania and you can extrapolate that for EU, then, I mean, we are in trouble. So we need to reach out to that. Let me just conclude with a little bit of the other solution. The other solution is migration. Having people coming from outside Europe. We are talking about talent. We have this talent pool initiative, getting talent from outside. But this thing needs to be put in a political context as well. I'm just going to be using quickly my political hat here. Because if you are addressing social policy and social investment, then you reduce the fear, anxiety, and those that are left behind have less propensity of going anti-system and becoming extremist. And if you are bringing, migration or people from outside, you are having exactly the contrary effect, and you will raise this feeling in Europe because, I mean, there will be people that will be, fueling the feeling of us versus them. So the political context is important, and I'm advocating here of this important concept of social investment. I just want to conclude with a little bit on the qualitative side, because we've been talking about AI. First thing that I would like to say here is that when we talk about skills and the kind of skills that we need for tomorrow, we cannot talk about skills without a proper partnership in our society in between the companies, the private sector, and the public sector. We are right now in a dire need at EU level, but also in Romania especially, of a major reform of the public employment service, of a connection that goes well beyond the different ministries. I'm talking here education, labor, also Ministry of Development that deals with housing and so many other things. And we need an industrial plan, basically, to figure out what kind of skills do we want to invest in. And this cannot be done without the private sector. Let me explain. So what I'm saying here, I'm saying that the EU has provided the frameworks, the European Year of Skills and different frameworks that we have. But the private sector right now, can be in the driving seat as well by saying, look, in our opinion, these are the things that we can actually provide as investment. We need a little bit of public procurement, maybe European funds, because we have a lot. And I think that there needs to be this, two-way dance in the future where we are not just discussing about the theory of how markets can be shaped, but we need this kind of solid partnership for industrial plan, because without an industrial plan, you cannot have a meaningful discussion on skills, and without a meaningful discussion on skills, you will not be able to figure out what you want to build as a society. And that leads me to the last thing. I'm an economist by training, so not lucky to be a polytechnical graduate. What I want to say in the end is that STEM, indeed, and AI are very important. But I would say that one of the trends that I figured out in the last years is that philosophy, psychology, sociology, even economics as a science, there are so much right now, challenged by what we are talking about, because we will need to figure out the human behavior behind. What are our own human traits and how we would like to see things. And I believe that this may actually fuel even better regulation in the future, if the case. But right now, this is really about what is the role of this human-centric approach that we would like to put forward. And at the European Union level, I believe that for the next legislator, we can be very optimistic because we have already a focus that would be on competitiveness. The only problem that I see it, being relevant is addressing the social investment and the larger perspective as well. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, and I take your point on the human-centric focus and competitiveness, because we like this word in this room. But I don't want to let you go because we have a lot of businessmen in front of you, and I want to push you a little bit with this question, because we always say the EU regulates too much, and I'm curious how you would respond to this challenge.
From the perspective of the European Parliament, I believe that this 9th legislator was not about too much regulation. Of course, we may agree to disagree. I believe it was an important response to a perma-crisis or a multi-crisis. I think that we pushed forward for some major transformation in our society that were really important to send a signal and provided the instruments to work with. And to be specific on AI, my colleague Dragoș Tudorache was the rapporteur of the European Parliament on this particular act, and he had a direct discussion with Sam Altman, and not only with him. And Sam Altman was preoccupied about, the consequences of, not having a regulation on ethics and on how we will use the system. So it's just the creators of the AI, I'm just want to clarify, Christian, I'm totally with you. We are not talking about AI here. We are talking about generative AI. And the consequences of that, indeed, are worrying also the big providers in the field. So if you look in the US right now, because you are more or less trying to say the contrast, the US is not regulating and the EU is regulating. The debate right now in the US, they have a special working group that is actually providing right now guidelines to see how the sector should actually be, regulate or at least having some limitations of the use of AI in the US, and the EU model is actually serving them as a guide. So, I mean, let's not be all the time that regulation is bad and EU is lagging and so on. On AI, I think that we've done some groundbreaking thing and pioneering, and again, the future will contradict me, but look and see how things will evolve on that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we partly agree to disagree, but maybe just to put in perspective, I don't think what we're saying is that the EU is regulating and the US is not, at least in this particular case. What we're saying is that the US is regulating something that it has, and Europe is regulating something that it does not have yet. I think that's the nuance I would add here. Thank you. I know this is a tough one with this crowd. Now, I would like to move to Mrs. Sava and come back to education reform.
Please, too much AI.
You've worked a lot of your, or a big chunk of your professional life, you've worked on education reform, education systems, and so on. So my question for you, it will be a tough one.
Please.
If you were, if you would have the pen now, looking at Romania and this problem with educating for the future, what would be the first two things you would do? Maybe one short term and one looking at the long term that you feel need to be addressed right now.
So first of all, I would start with congratulating you, the IT industry, for the growth of Romania. Because without you, we couldn't have such a spike. And this is for sure. The second thing, congrats for hiring women. Guys, Romania is really well placed on how many IT females work in the IT industry, but also how many students we have in Politehnica Bucharest, and they are females, girls. So 47%. So my husband is an IT and his team is comprised of women. Hard for me. So secondly, you know, the fierce enemy of teachers, except parents, are mobile phones, not IT, not AI. Because mobile phones distract kids in the room, and even for a trainer, and even for me here, when I see you on your mobile phone, it's very difficult to engage you in the conversation. So mobile phones are our enemy these days in education system, in the classroom, in the training, and everywhere. Because then your kids want everything to happen in a minute, in a click. And it doesn't happen. Learning numeracy, literacy, and social-emotional skills, they are not happening overnight. That's why education systems are not changing overnight. You need some pillars. Technology may change. So how much affected electricity jobs? Some jobs. How much internet affected jobs? Some jobs. This will happen also with the AI. It will affect some jobs. But this is not our enemy. This will enable in a different context, and we will be even more productive, and we will work even more. And you know who will work? Us, the older generation. Unfortunately, we would work for our kids because they don't want necessarily a house. The culture shifts. They want a very good life. They want everything without too much work because we worked too much. And we still do. Unfortunately, and with the new pension reforms, we have no chance other than work more. If we think about jobs that we have had 25 years ago, that we didn't imagine 25 years ago, but we have them now. Social media manager, influencer. Is this a job? It is. Or drone operator. We could not imagine 25 years ago, neither education systems. Now, can you imagine a virtual habitat architect or AI ethicist or human technology integration specialist or digital identity defender. So you see, education systems have to decide now for these kids that will have these jobs. What they will decide? They will decide to do basic skills, numeracy, literacy, and social-emotional skills. We need to become flexible, adaptable. We learn from everywhere. So we need to protect teachers, first of all. Remember pandemic. Don't forget pandemic, ever. Because we needed teachers. And we need to transform this profession, and I would invest in teachers. And Minister Deca will invest also in teachers. Who creates resilient systems in education? Teachers. It's not parents, are teachers. They are there to educate our kids, and we have to really protect this profession, to talk nicely about it. And we have now an IT industry growing because governments and the EU focused on digitalization. Otherwise, without steering the direction to that, we wouldn't be where we are. So please, think about teachers as a profession that is facilitating knowledge, and we need to invest in them. And it's not necessarily the digital skills that these are easy. With you guys here in the room, I think we can learn very fast. So it's not, but you need foundation. You need to know you need Romanian language, which these days is quite difficult for our kids because they prefer English. We need numeracy, and we need social-emotional skills, meaning perseverance, autonomy, grit, collaboration. You know how hard it is to create collaborative environment. And you know, IT specialists are embedded in every industry, as we could see earlier. There is an IT person in every, but then our new doctors will need to use robotics. So they will need this type of skills. All of us will need this type of skills. And this will be created in university, probably in medicine, or so we will merge some of the professions, they will become different. So yes, I will invest in teachers, and I will invest much more in education in general. This is the way and I recommend a movie to you. It's called Rita on Netflix. It's about a teacher in Denmark, and you can see that they have similar issues. They protect school in small communities, because without that school, the community will not survive. Either you transform it in community center or in something else, but learning should happen in the community level. I'm sorry that I'm so passionate, but you are parents, so you understand me. Sometimes we consider ourselves smarter than teachers, which is we need to be partners. There is a dance. And I think about Romania as a country that is not so well developed, so we are still in the good direction, and I think this is our chance. We are not that bad in IT, we are not that bad in digital with digital skills. The single issue that we have, and you heard everyone here, it's about the gap between vulnerable and non-vulnerable. If you go around Bucharest, 30 kilometers away, you can see poverty. But poverty, and these kids, there are 3 schooling years difference, a gap between Bucharest kids and the others near Bucharest. Can you imagine that? So we need to do something for them. Otherwise, the ones that will repair your house in the future will put the door on the roof, because it's about that. So let's do something together as a society in education, and I think, and put teachers in a higher place than it is now. We need to do this attractive, and we need to encourage them to stay in the profession, to retain them. In Romania, we are not the worst in Europe. There is a teacher shortages, like in Germany and Austria, huge shortages. In Romania, there are 2 teachers that enter into the system and only 1 out, which is good. So we have a young generation that still come. So about that, we are happy.
All right, thank you. And I see a red line here in this idea that we need to invest in teachers. Mr. Costoiu said it, you said it, Mrs. Deca said it. I think everyone touched on this. So in a sense that's good because it seems we have a direction. Jon.
Coming back to IT and AI now.
Coming back to, I intentionally left you on the last place because I wanted to ask you this question. I had a different question for you, but I changed my mind during hearing the others speak. Because we talked a lot about systems, education systems, reforms, bird eye view, and so on. But you're also in the middle of things. Huh? I bet you can already see AI changing the way you work, the way your colleagues work, or at least you start having questions about how you handle this. And I would have this curiosity, thinking about what everyone else has said. How do you already see these things in your company? How easy it is for your colleagues to learn AI skills? How fast do you see what they're doing changing because of this new technology?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I would start also now representing the IT industry, a bit of profiling. I'm an IT graduate. I'm a graduate of Polytechnic University, computer science. Thank you very much. And one thing about IT, that software engineers and so on, that we are very used to changes and always learning new things because technology is changing very fast. So in order to build things, you always need to be up to date with the latest technologies, frameworks, and whatever. I'm my kind of day job. I'm working for a large bank with a very large IT department, more than 15,000 people globally. And one of the things related to AI is that I want to talk about regulation in the bank, but I'll try to stop myself and not talk about regulations and banks and so on. But we got a message from the head of global technology at the beginning of the year that everyone working in IT, so again, talk more than 50,000 people, must do at least one AI training this year. And it doesn't have to be advanced. It can be about prompt engineering or basics or whatever who needs, but everyone needs to learn AI. Yeah, banks are moving slow. German banks probably even slower. But banks, if we talk about banks in particular, there are not so much about banks with an IT department. There are basically IT organizations working in the financial sector. That's a concept that is building more, and let's talk about the banks. Now looking back at my own profile, again, IT used to changes and so on. So on the questions, I decided that I want to chip in my head as soon as possible. And I'm expecting for like 20 years already for automation to take my job. I haven't succeeded. I'm working more and more, but I'm still expecting that at the moment. Again, talking about it, again, I'm usually the IT, so is any broken computer here on the stage, or I'm the IT person. We are also used to change, but we are also trying to be lazy as much as possible. So whenever it's something that we can automate, in terms of building software, deploying, and so on, we do automate. This obviously makes our life easier and reduce errors and all the other good things. So we like automation, and we love not to do work as much as not doing now. You want to ask?
Yeah, because you said that in 20 years you're expecting AI to take your job.
I'm expecting for 20 years.
For 20, okay.
Be sooner than 20 years now, yeah.
I think we all heard the NVIDIA CEO, if I'm not wrong, saying that in 5 years' time, or telling people don't learn programming, you're not gonna need it anymore. If you look at this problem from your perspective, do you see this, was this marketing, or is this really something that's happening?
I'm in that camp. I think with the questions already, AI will take our jobs. So I'm in that camp, so to make things clear. But to be a bit more nuanced, basically it's about how we prepare for this, because we know now change happens. And Mr. Costoiu was saying, okay, we don't have to prepare our students or for the jobs we have now, because in 20 years, most of the jobs will be gone. Talking about the banks, Goldman Sachs has estimated now that 300 million jobs will be displaced by 2030. So it makes no sense to prepare people for the jobs we see now, even AI. That obviously is a challenge. We don't know what jobs there will be. But it's not only that. If you want to basically like shoot a target, right? You don't have to shoot a target where it is. You have to shoot the target where you think it will be, right, by the time the bullet will hit. The challenge is that the progress is not linear, right? The evolution is it's exponential, and we see that, right? For now, thousands of years, nothing much changed in the world. We used to have the same job, same tools, basically finite pi, and now with technology and starting with industrial revolution, steam engine, electricity, and so on. I remember when my grandma got her first phone, was the one with the tails and stuff, and now if you don't buy this year the new AI phones, basically you are behind the curve, right? So it's even harder to hit a target that is moving an exponential rate, right? And again, the question is now for what we prepare now the future generation. And I give you two quotes, but the first one is from Yogi Berra. I think a few people said that it's difficult to make predictions, especially about the future. But there are some things, and there are good studies about this, and some of the things you mentioned already, the type of skills we need. And World Economic Forums, they publish a Future of Work report every couple of years. In the latest one, we had some small changes. The first one is obviously digital AI, so learn to use technology, leadership, creativity, that's easy one, critical thinking. And as we talk about elections and so on this year, it's particularly important for people actually to understand how they are manipulated and all the good things. Emotional intelligence, I think multiple people mentioned that. Dependability, I think this was introduced in the last study, so it wasn't there before. Resilience, flexibility, which is crucial about change. And yeah, the last one is learning. So learning is not just a process of learning, but actually having a value on learning, actually valuing learning and being a value for the society that we learn. And I'll come back to this in just a second. I'm looking at the watch now that I have more, 1 minute. So.
Me too.
There is a very similar list from Ken Robinson, kind of a different way. He said the first one is curiosity, which kind of it's a bit more than learning, because learning is curiosity, and we don't necessarily need for somebody to teach us. We need someone to basically create the curiosity and help us satisfy our curiosity. Creativity, criticism, collaboration, compassion, and citizenship. And because we talk about learning, and I'll end here, when we talk about all the places where Romania shows on the last position there. From my perspective, the most disappointing one, we are on the last in EU on lifelong learning. And now the education in the past used to say, I did the college, university, whatever, I'm going to a profession and I'm going to retire for the profession, everything is nice. Now with this change happening so fast with technology, with jobs and so on, if we don't get into a custom of learning all the time, it's not about what AI will do, we don't know about it, actually being asked to adapt to what happens. And I'll finish with another quote. It's from Lewis Carroll Ellis in Wonderland, and it says, "My dear, here we have to run as fast as we can just to stay in place. If you wish to go anywhere, you need to run twice as fast."
Thank you. This is a good quote. I'll remember it. I actually had another question for all of you, but as we ran out of time, I'm not going to ask that question. I'm just gonna end with a quiz. I started with a quiz. I want to end with a quiz, and it's just gonna be a very quick one. Yes and no for all of our panelists. No Slido, because I made this up as we were going along. But I want to start, some of you will recognize or will know that almost 100 years ago, a famous economist, John Maynard Keynes, said that with the current technology and the current development will become so productive that by 2000 we will only need to work 1 or 2 days a week. And looking at your faces, this clearly has not happened. So I think my question for each of you is, looking at AI and all the things that you know and you've read about it, you think this is going to be just another amazing technology, but it will not radically change the way we work? Or do you think this is the aha moment, the kind of thing Keynes had in mind that will allow us to work a lot less and to focus on other things in our lives? So I would ask each of you, just a technology or a fundamental change to the way we work? Let's just start from here to Mr. Costoiu.
I go for fundamental change.
You go for fundamental.
Give it 2 years to start.
All right, so one fundamental change.
I don't think we're going to see fundamental changes in some aspects. In others, we will. If I look at the jobs of the future, any study tells us that the competencies that make us human will also make us employable. So, you know, if I were to guide our education system based on that, I would go back to the Socratic method. So I would say, you know, as in social sciences, some will, some won't.
All right, but I'll make it even now, so not that much of a fundamental change. 1-1. Dragos?
I still believe that AI is just a tool. AI is not bringing change by itself. It's about how do we choose to use it. Okay. I think that we are entering a century where it will be crucial to experiment, to learn, to test, to be flexible, to react faster. And this is actually happening for the last years when we talk about computer science, generally speaking. AI will just accelerate that another notch, okay. I would say. So that's my view into it. And it's very important for us as a country here to try to test and experiment more and invest into that.
All right, so 2-1 for just technology. Let's see.
My opinion is that AI is a tool that we have to use to make us smarter.
All right, so still just a technology, a great one. 3-1.
Yeah,
I kind of know your vote.
I kind of answered already, but I have voted, but I can give an example. Again, I talk about the rate of technology change, right? So the things that we are now, we've seen, internet appeared in my life. No, fortunately not electricity, but internet appeared in my life, right? So we had thousands of years of evolutions with people not having internet. And now we have AI, right, in such a short time frame. So it feels like it takes a year or 2 years, but in terms of evolution, that's milliseconds. And to give a kind of example to think about, I was reading a few weeks ago, one of the new GPT models, they did the AI test, IQ test in those models. Basically, they either described the sequence of pictures or put the ASCII characters and so on, and they granted, so ChatGPT wasn't the smartest in this sense, but there is one new AI model who actually scored 101. So that kind of means that it's smarter with 1 point than the average of human intelligence. And imagine that this AI will actually be used to create other AIs. So that has an exponential impact. So coming back to what we have to do, and I'm an IT person, I'm supposed to talk about technology. It's more about the emotional intelligence than trying to compete with AI. Actually, I've seen in universities that in the response in some universities, not technical, obviously, is that, oh, AI is 20 years away, and that something will make a difference. Or AI is our enemy, and it will be students to cheat, and it will be a disaster, and we have to fight with AI. So you have to learn to live with it.
You're trying to make my life difficult, but I'll put you down for fundamental change.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right.
I think it's a technology. It's like an average teacher without a heart. And I think it's mirroring us a lot because it's the way you put the question.
Okay.
So it's us in the mirror, but maybe a little bit better. But it will allow us to focus on well-being, and this is important. We would focus on our well-being of teachers, of students, of parents, of everyone. But what we need, it's moral compass. So think about that. We need moral compass, all of us as citizens, all of us as inhabitants. And with that, we can use AI very wisely.
All right, thank you. Still technology. Cristi?
I don't know what to answer to your question, but I will say you, as president of MCHEM, I will give you this sequence of events. Internet Internet of Things, cloud, generative AI, quantum. And as a banker, I'm telling you that data are the new money. So you draw the conclusion.
I'll put you down for fundamental change.
24 years ago, I have a dream for create a very strong IT industry in Romania. And 3 years ago, I stand in each governmental meeting in front of the door and explain of the minister the importance to cut the taxes for the IT sector. It's my mind in 2000. In 2003, finally the government approved this. Now another government cut this. It's not very good. But it's very important I promote the technology, of course. And now we work in our technology to put quantum and AI together, and we create the first artificial neuron with our colleague from EPFL, École Fédérale de Lausanne. I promote the technology, but it's very important to manage the technology in front of society with ethics, responsibility, and very important, most important, to educate the people. If we don't put all together, we have big problems. Many decisions in a different government decide to invest only in technology, not in professor, in teacher. Ligia mentioned, Alina mentioned, I mentioned. If we don't invest in all, we have a big problem in the future.
All right, thank you. So if I am to conclude, based on our initial quiz, what has been said, and on our final quiz, is that AI is a great technology that we need to prepare a lot for, because it's going to make you all work harder. So with this...
Radu, maybe just a conclusion that the IT industry, which is present here in the room, is here because of the teachers we had.
That's a good conclusion too. So let's invest in teachers. So I want to thank you for bearing with us, because I managed to make the longest panel longer. I see Corina looking at me like, come on, cut it out. So thank you for all the interesting things you said. Thank you for your patience. And I think someone else is gonna announce what's next. So I won't I won't steal their job. Thank you.
So thank you all for this insightful discussion, for this insightful dialogue, and for this Summit Day.
We now have the pleasure to invite you to dinner. It's my pleasure, as always, to invite you to something really nice. Please note that we will see each other in about an hour at 7 p.m. for the main event of today, ANIS Awards Gala, where obviously we will find out who are the winners of the 10th edition of the ANIS Industry Awards. So make sure you are here in about an hour and enjoy your dinner. Thank you.